The more you expose your life to others, the more they find ways to make it worse. You've probably thought about disappearing and completely changing yourself before showing up again, surprising everyone with the transformation. After all, that's what every hero does in the movies you watch, right? If that's how you're thinking, I'd suggest you stop this video now. When you learn how to disappear and work in the shadows without anyone knowing, trust me, you'll get addicted to it, and you won't want to reveal yourself to the world again. Instead, the world will discover you. In the end, you'll realize that what others think doesn't matter. I've spent years working in the shadows without anyone knowing, which makes me the perfect person to show you how to walk that path, the one you can't return from. In this video, I'm going to tell you the story of David Goggins because I believe he's the right person to make a video about today. Along the way, I'll give you 6 keys, and these will unlock the door to your new life, or more precisely, your new self. Let's begin. David wasn't always the man we know. His life was mostly miserable, starting in a small town in Indiana in the late 70s. His family life was terrible. Although his father was a manager at skating clubs during the day, at night he was a drunk who beat David and his mother. In short, he was a terrible person who controlled his family through threats and violence. You can imagine how a family would be broken if the father only cared about drinking and beating them. David's mother was independent before marrying his father, but after they wed, she lived a miserable life almost every day. David and his younger sister shared in that suffering. School wasn't an escape either. Racism was still widespread at the time, especially in Indiana, where David lived. To make matters worse, David was one of only a few black children at school, which I'm sure you can imagine led to bullying, both physical abuse and name-calling that could crush a child's self-esteem. Any child in David's situation would have felt out of place, isolated, and had no confidence. So he tried to find an escape from his harsh reality. But sadly, he found none. There was no way out of his miserable life because he was too young and nobody listened to him. When David was 8, his life changed significantly. His mother, showing immense courage, decided to escape with him and his younger sister from their abusive father. Although it was difficult to leave behind everything they'd known and start a new life from scratch, she managed to do it. They moved to another city and started fresh, far away from his father. But David didn't benefit much. The physical wounds might heal, but the emotional scars don't recover as easily. The damage inside is harder to repair. David lived in constant fear and distrust. He truly believed there was no hope for him to succeed, and the world was against him. Life didn't get any easier after their escape. Their financial situation worsened because his mother was the only one working, and racism followed him to his new school. Being the new black kid in a racist environment meant continuous bullying. Year after year, David gave up more on life, losing self-esteem and ambition, living day by day just to survive. I've seen many people in this situation, and it's possible that you might be in the same spot as well. I want you to understand, my friend, that it's not wrong to find yourself in such a situation. The mistake is planning to stay in it. Your first key is to set your ambition and goal, because simply, you can't reach something if you don't know what that something is. It's impossible to reach your destination if you haven't clearly defined it. And to define your goal, don't ask me or anyone else, and don't search for it in books. Search for it within yourself. Humans are naturally greedy, and surely you have a goal within you. There's something inside you, I'm sure, that if you search deep down, you'll feel you want it. You want to reach it. It's possible that this thing is buried, my friend, but trust me, in the end, it's there. This is what happened after years of family abuse and racism he faced. His transition into adulthood didn't improve his life. In fact, things got worse. He had no plans or clue what he would do in the upcoming period or what he should do after school. Should he go to college or work? He had absolutely no idea what he was supposed to do. Besides, he didn't have any money, so his situation was truly difficult. That's why he started working temporary jobs, like cleaning restaurants or even spraying pesticides or anything that could earn him a little money. But my friend, these jobs weren't making things better. They only increased his sense of failure, especially since they were boring, paid poorly, and consumed long hours of his life without him feeling like he was benefiting himself or others. So David started heading down another path, a bad one, the path of obesity. Because of his constant stress and poor mental state, his only escape was eating, and eating as much as he could. This habit escalated until his weight reached 136 kilograms. To help you understand how bad the situation was, imagine yourself in David's shoes. You're feeling down, your financial situation is awful, and you see no future ahead. You don't even know what you want to do with your life, so you start eating excessively just to relieve some of the stress. You feel like you're doing something, but when you look in the mirror, you find that you've become overweight to an unhealthy degree. Your appearance is not great, and because of that, your mental state gets even worse. It becomes a vicious cycle. The more you try to escape, the deeper you sink, like you're trapped in quicksand. Every move you make to free yourself just drags you in further. Because of this, David began isolating himself more and more from the world. He didn't have any friends, and he wasn't even trying to make any because his mental and physical state constantly made him feel like he wasn't worthy of interacting with others. He felt less than deserving of any kind of relationship. That's why I'm giving you your second key, my friend. Don't care about what people think. Your opinion is what matters. Look, maybe things are getting clearer for you, or maybe not. But people will always talk. They'll always try to judge you. Whether you're rich or poor, they'll talk. Whether you're fat or muscular, religious or careless, they'll find something to say about you. People will always find a way to comment on your life. So don't care about them. Only care about one thing, yourself and what you think is right. I'm not telling you to close your mind and never accept new ideas. Not at all. My point is that you need to seek out what's right, and once you find it, work based on that, but do so with conviction and belief. Even then, people will still find a way to talk about you and judge you. What happened next to David is that, because of all the things I mentioned, he actually started thinking about ending his life, just ending it all. In his eyes, life had no value. Every day was just more suffering than the one before. But then something very small happened that would change his life drastically. One day, while watching TV to pass the time, an ad for the Navy SEALs suddenly came on. The ad talked about the mental strength and discipline anyone would need to join the Navy SEALs. When David saw the ad, which was full of strong men going through intense and obviously painful training, he thought to himself that these men were the complete opposite of him. He was overweight and living comfortably while these men were enduring brutal training to become stronger. David was far from them in every way. But he kept thinking about that ad and how unrealistic it seemed for someone like him. How could someone who was mentally broken, physically unfit, and overweight join the Navy SEALs? Still, he asked himself, why not try? What's the worst that could happen? What if I succeed? What if I actually manage to do it and make it a reality?
Why are you moving? Why are you moving?
And here, I want to give you your third key, my friend. You have two voices in your head. Always listen to the stubborn one. Because what happened to David will happen, or is already happening, to you, my friend. There are two voices inside every one of us. One of them will tell you that you are worthless, that you're a failure, and there's no hope for you, that you should give up. The other voice will say, okay, since you know you're worthless, That means you need to create value for yourself. Since you know you're a failure, don't stop until you change that, or die trying. That's the voice you need to listen to, my friend, because in the worst-case scenario, it will make you a better person than you are now. In the worst-case scenario, you'll improve and progress beyond the moment you're in right now. And that's why, after a lot of thinking, David decided to become a Special Forces soldier. He knew it would be extremely difficult, and that he would have to throw his old personality and life into the nearest trash can. But even so, he decided to stick to it and commit. And now, I'll quickly give you your fourth key, my friend. Plans are only good as long as you're committed to them. Because, logically speaking, no matter how good a plan is, it won't benefit you unless you commit to it. I can assure you that this is not easy. For example, I like to change my plans quickly, mostly because I'm constantly learning. That's why I keep trying to change my plans continuously and quickly. And this is wrong, even though I hate to admit it. But it's wrong. So take it from me. A good plan will remain good as long as you stick to it. Otherwise, it won't be useful to you. Now, David was facing a major problem: his weight. Because see, my friend, there's no other way to say it. David was black. And let's be real, back then, black people weren't the most liked in America. So David had to be physically superior to white people just to have a chance. And with that in mind, David really committed to this. He quickly abandoned all his bad habits, started eating only healthy food in small amounts, and began exercising daily. It was tough, but it was the right thing to do. And so your fifth key, my friend, is that you need to hide your exhaustion. Because people won't believe you're ready to put in all that effort for something that might benefit you. The moment people see you working hard on something that could be useful in the future, they'll tell you that all your effort will be in vain, that you're wasting your time and energy. They'll become like a weight on your back. Every time you try to lift yourself, you'll find that you can't because of that weight. I'm sure this has happened to you before, my friend, and most likely, their words penetrated your mind and spread like cancer. Eventually, they caused the death of the goal you had, the goal that could have truly changed your life, or rather changed you. And this is what happened to David too, except that David didn't listen to the people. He kept going with his difficult training and diet. After a few weeks, David started to notice that his body was improving and that push-ups and pull-ups weren't as hard as they used to be. This convinced him even more that he was on the right path. After continuing down the same path for several months, David finally decided to submit his application to the Navy. This meant he had to undergo a very difficult test. Of course, David was scared and nervous, but he understood very well that this was his path and that he had to continue. The time came for the test, which was called Hell Week. It was named that for a reason. It was 1 week where the trainees would be put under extreme physical and mental stress with the least amount of food and sleep possible. The idea was to simply see who could qualify and who would just fall out. The test began, and David was literally struggling with it. Although he had transformed himself, this was only recently, and his physical condition was still not at its best. The exercises were relentless, whether it was running on sand for long distances. If you know running on sand, you know it's very difficult. Or swimming in very cold water, or even carrying boats on their shoulders for long hours. These were actual boats, and that's why you always hear David saying, "Who will carry the boats?"
22! Who's gonna carry the boats and the logs? That's you, buddy!
You could say that this affected him a lot because he was literally fighting a war with himself to overcome his own limitations. And yes, I forgot to tell you, my friend, that while this was a test, don't expect the instructors to be kind to the trainees. They would literally try to humiliate him to break him psychologically. They would make them train without food and sleep for long periods, and then they would come and tell the trainees. David was one of them. "Why are you here? You know you are failures and outcasts in society. Why are you even trying?" They wanted to see simply who would be able to endure this pressure and continue with them. Over time, this pressure accumulated. One day, while David was running with his colleagues, he collapsed on the ground as if his legs could no longer support him. But then, he started to remember all the hardships he had gone through and realized that this was not the point where he should stop. Because if he stopped, it would mean losing everything he had worked hard for. And listen to me carefully, my friend. He wasn't going to lose anything he had because he still didn't own anything. He would lose everything he might gain. So when you think that you have nothing, you are wrong, my friend. Because even if you have nothing right now, it doesn't mean you won't have anything in the future. Always remember this. David understood this well, so he got up and continued running, even though he was literally at his worst. After 5 days of this continuous hell that David had entered, the test ended, and David succeeded. This was the first time David felt his worth and took pride in himself. At that moment, he realized the most important lesson he could learn: that suffering and pain are a huge part of any success a person can achieve. Strength is not just physical strength, it's the strength of a person's will and their belief in what they are striving for. This was David's first real test in life, and he succeeded. After that, you could say he became addicted to this feeling and kept running from success to success. Each success was harder than the last, by the way. And all this while he was silent and hidden until the world finally discovered him, making him one of the most famous people on the planet. And this is your sixth and final key, my friend. Don't show yourself and don't care about the world, because when you reach that point, that's when the world should care about you. Because the moment you show your concern for the world, you'll fall back to square one and you will again be judged by people. So focus on yourself and the world will care about you. Care for the world and it won't notice you.